Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, it's deja vu all over again. A solo show where the Memphis Grizzlies beat up on the Phoenix Suns exactly where we left off of last time I hosted a show solo. And I think if you ask the Phoenix Suns what they believe their identity is, what they do well, I'm not so sure they could tell you. Let's talk about that next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I am Benjamin Garcia, a media member, credentialed media member covering your Phoenix Suns. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Wednesday. Don't forget, Locked On Phoenix Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button and do what thousands of other Phoenix Suns fans have already done, become an everydayer and get locked onto the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's show is sponsored by our team's newsletter, a really great way for you guys to be able to interact with us. Go to lockedondaily.com, be able to sign up. You'll get some really great news, all things Phoenix Suns, as well as some other miscellaneous items, including things like some fantasy basketball advice, and all of it free of charge just to you. You know, it was a little bit of a longer tease to open, but I thought it was interesting to put this in perspective. About a month ago, maybe a little bit more than that, it appears at this point, it was December 31st, the Phoenix Suns played the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, that Memphis Grizzlies team didn't have a lot of players playing in that game. Whether it was Zach Edey being out or Ja Morant being out, it was the Memphis Grizzlies C team. And the Phoenix Suns were mollywopped the entirety of that game until late when they pulled it within a little bit. It was closer than what the score actually showed. And I ended up hosting that game alone. And I kind of hit DEFCON 1. And it's interesting to see that now that it's February 12th when you'll be hearing this, the Phoenix Suns just decided to run it back. No Bradley Beal in this game, sure. Kevin Durant's healthy. Devin Booker's healthy. And right out of the gate, the Phoenix Suns were just completely manhandled by the Memphis Grizzlies. And if we're just jumping immediately into moments of the game, as Brendan and I like to do every time we come on here, really break it down for you. For me, it comes into the 8:39 mark of the fourth quarter. Royce O'Neal makes a 2-point shot. That was a bank shot just off of I believe a bad pass from Ja Morant. Of course, there it is. 99-95. Memphis Grizzlies call a timeout, immediately come in, get a tip-in shot off of an offensive rebound, a trend that would rear its head all night long, and the Phoenix Suns never got within that margin again. Because the Memphis Grizzlies are a good team. They're able to call a timeout on the road, bring everyone in, hone in what everyone's doing, take a deep breath, draw up a play, hustle, get an offensive board, and score. The difference between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Phoenix Suns is just very plainly this. One's a good team that knows who they are, and one's a bad team that has no idea who they are. None. It's very frustrating on nights where Devin Booker becomes the all-time leading scorer for the Phoenix Suns franchise. Destined to do so since the moment he stepped into the NBA. And they lose. And Kevin Durant gets 30,000 points, which we'll talk about a little bit later. They still lose. It just gets frustrating that the Phoenix Suns continue to find ways to dampen the mood even more than it already has been. And it's again because the Grizzlies know who they are. They're a young, feisty team. They get up and down the floor fast. Sure, sometimes they turn the ball over, but they play with great pace and they're able to run up and down the floor on you. And the Phoenix Suns, being an older team, just can't run that way. And in games as well, where the Suns tend to turn the ball over a lot. Now, not necessarily in this game did it feel like it was as big of a deal, but still 11 turnovers in this game. And you go to, fast break points, 19-11, and points in the paint, 58-50. A lot of those are just easy buckets getting to the basket, playing with pace. It hasn't left my brain since Brendan said this a couple of weeks ago. And it's just this. The Phoenix Suns have a really hard time with teams that can just play them straight up, swarm them, make other players outside of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker beat them. They have issues with those type of teams. But even more so, the younger, gritty, athletic, run up and down the floor teams, the Suns just can't handle them. And that's clearly what happened tonight with the Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. and company. They took advantage of the Suns' poor front court play. Bol was decent tonight, but still at times, Memphis Grizzlies manhandled them. And even with a decent amount of height on the floor, Kevin Durant, Bol, Suns still can't grab a rebound. They can't box out. And continuously, the Memphis Grizzlies just go after loose balls. It just seems like they want it more. I don't know what the issue is for the Suns at this point when it comes to why they aren't trying harder when it feels like the game is within reach. But at some point, and I noticed this, it's not just one player. It's the whole team. Now, I'll get to that a little bit more in just a second. I think that's a really important point to make. But I think what you saw tonight was a Grizzlies team that has no issue going on the road and stepping on the throat of a team. They've got a head coach that's able to call a timeout, reel their team back in, and not give up leads. I can assure you tonight, if the Suns were in the opposite position and they were the Memphis Grizzlies tonight and they were up however many points, they would potentially blow that lead with more of a likelihood that the opposing team wins than the Grizzlies ever did. It got tight at times, but unfortunately, with this version of the Suns, I never felt like the game was ever in real grave danger for the Memphis Grizzlies. Whether it was too many Ty Washington minutes and Ryan Dunn sitting on the bench and questioning to yourself, what does Coach Budenholzer doing with this team? We had a Bol starting lineup today. And it's to the point where you see some of the post-game comments where Coach Budenholzer is saying, hey, listen, we're just going to keep on pushing the envelope and trying different things out. Which tells me through 50 games of the season, it looks like it's 53 games on the season, somewhere around there. They have no idea what they are. And there's not enough time in the season to figure out what you are. Which it just continues to relay the fact that this team not only isn't championship contention, which is so far out there at this point, but they're not a playoff team. I don't know if they're a play-in team. The Grizzlies are just a seemingly good, well-oiled machine. You get the same thing every single night. You might not get the same result, but you get a same gritty team that plays with pace, and you're not sure if that pace is going to work out in the playoffs because things get slowed down, but they know what they are. With the Suns, they show up to the game, and it feels like a game that they have to win. You don't know if Bradley Beal's going to play. You're not sure if Kevin Durant's going to play. But even if they do, you're not sure what you're getting quarter to quarter, game to game, possession by possession. It goes to such a micro level with this team where sometimes they're running the ball up with Tyus Jones. Sometimes it's Kevin Durant, or they're getting egregious 8-second violation calls. They're giving up a offensive rebound where Jaren Jackson Jr. misses 2 free throws. Meanwhile, Memphis Grizzlies are diving on the floor. They're getting to the bucket. They're playing with pace. I can tell you, without watching more than a handful of Grizzlies games this year, what exactly the Memphis Grizzlies are. Because outside of adding Zach Edey this year, they've been the same thing for the past couple of seasons. Now, John Morant was injured last year. That takes a big blow to what you were trying to do. But for the most part, I know what they are. If I said to you, what are the Phoenix Suns? A group of talent, and that's where it ends. It is incredibly surprising to me that a team with this much talent continues to fall flat on their face. And that's a really good place to talk right then and there. What did we learn from today's game? How can it be fixed? And ultimately, what is Coach Budenholzer doing with this lineup? So let's talk about that next. First, today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. Wayfair is Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into my routine, whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year. Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget as well. You know, for me, it's oftentimes looking for new furniture or just a better way for me to be able to understand what fits my needs in my apartment, the personal touch of things, how I can make my space mine. The free and hassle-free device, even for larger items, allows Wayfair to be a easy to navigate site, and I find everything I need in no time. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. You know, we were just talking about a second ago as we continue to keep the show going. The lesson that you kind of get from today's game is very plainly Coach Budenholzer, the Phoenix Suns, they just have no idea what they are. None. And it's to the point where they're having to scramble lineups. I thought it was very telling today that Coach Budenholzer has no idea what he's doing. But I don't think he has no idea what he's doing because he's a bad head coach. I think he has this mass collection of talent, but doesn't understand why it's not working, why his offensive system is not working. And it's where I kind of point to this. I see a lot of Suns fans blaming Matt Ishbia. You guys know how I feel. I think it's nonsense. I'd rather have an owner be aggressive, swing for the fences, and try to deliver a championship to this team. And I'm not going to act like I thought Bradley Beal wasn't going to be a slam dunk for this team. And 95% of Suns fans also thought that. It didn't work out. Sometimes you swing and strike out. And I'm not going to blame Bradley Beal. It doesn't fit. I'm not going to blame Yusuf Nurkic. And I'm most definitely, and I saw this today, not going to blame Tyus Jones. I thought Tyus Jones was a great signing for the Suns. I never thought the point guard position was ever the biggest issue for this Suns team. Go back, check the tapes. I said that. Brendan said that. You can point out the Suns you can point out Tyus Jones, and I tweeted this at Ben Garcia Show, his clear defensive deficiencies, and you would absolutely be right. But over the course of the year, we went from blaming Nurkic to blaming Plumlee to blaming whoever, but Coach Bud, to now blaming Bradley Beal, to then blaming Tyus Jones. It's just been like clockwork blaming players or coaches on this team. We started the season and it was Nurkic, he's the issue. And then it was Bradley Beal. No, he's the actual issue. Then it was Mason Plumlee. And now it's Tyus Jones's turn. And rightfully so. His defense is abysmal. I hate to break it to you, but this team is broken. It's not just one player. And it goes back to the guys at the top that I would blame the most. So a Bradley Beal, a Kevin Durant, a Devin Booker. The leadership of this team just isn't there. And we can talk about leadership another day. And I understand Kevin Durant fans will get upset with me for saying his leadership's not great, which he even says he doesn't want to be a leader. And that's okay. Not everyone has to be. But for the betterment of this team, I wish he was a little bit of a better leader. Kevin Durant or Devin Booker hasn't been a great leader either. I wish that had kind of changed a little bit with this team. But overall, what I've learned is this team isn't a player away or a different set of teammates away. We saw that. We had a completely different team last year, revamped it with a bunch of new pieces and new players. And for the most part, including myself, I kind of liked it. The issue for this team is not a skill issue. They have a clear cultural issue with this team. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's Coach Budenholzer. I doubt it. We had this issue before he was here. I don't know if it's James Jones or Josh Barlstein or if it's a player like Kevin Durant or if it's a player like Devin Booker. Maybe their leadership isn't as good as I thought it might be. But I'm done blaming one singular player or one singular move. This team is broken. There's no reason with this collection of talent, whether you want to believe they're talented or not. Kevin Durant, Hall of Famer. Devin Booker will be a Hall of Famer. Bradley Beal will likely get, no, he probably won't get Hall of Fame votes, but Bradley Beal, all-star player at one point. Still a talented player. Just doesn't fit in this system. Grayson Allen, one of the better three-point shooters in the league. Tyus Jones, before he came to the Suns, was seen as a very capable point guard. Royce O'Neal, good 3-and-D guy. To the bare minimum, good, but good. Bol, talented. Nick Richards, talented. And they're abysmal. No offensive identity. No one plays a lick of defense. And anytime they get matched up by a young team who runs the floor, they turtle shell. There is nothing that could fix this team right now. No star, not Jimmy Butler. He might make him a little bit better, but he wouldn't fix this team. The Suns have an internal cultural issue. And I don't know how you fix that. I don't even know how you find the problem of it. But what I will say about the Suns 2021 team is I never questioned if they liked each other or if the vibe was always good or if they had a leader. Chris Paul was that guy. Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges seemed like kind of class clowns. Like they loved to make guys laugh. Cam Payne was a ton of fun to watch off the bench. DeAndre Ayton, although drove us insane at times, showed up in the playoffs. Devin Booker, the young up-and-coming star that everyone loved. There was a real culture there. Now, it took years to build that culture, and you strategically added one key guy like Chris Paul to help elevate this team. But the one thing that I'll give Suns fans, still reliving the old days and reliving the glory days, is the culture of that team was set. And I would argue the culture is as important or more important than the collection of talent. No one has clear defined roles on this Suns team. Back in 2021, 2022, they did. I'm not sure that they like each other. I don't think they hate each other, but this team's not connected. That team was. I don't know how you find the key reason why the cultural issues are there, but it just feels like a dark cloud over this team. It feels like if you added LeBron James himself to this team, or Giannis Antetokounmpo himself. Sure, maybe it's a stretch and they do fix this team, but it kind of feels like nothing can. It feels like they need a complete bath, a do-over. I'm not upset with the moves they made. They were aggressive and they didn't work. But what I won't do is blame one singular player, because I think what's clear that with this collection of talent, even if they are missing key pieces to win a championship or be a viable playoff team, overall, there's talent on this team. And you can't convince me otherwise. What I think is very clear is a cultural issue with this Suns team. It just gets frustrating after a while to continue to rehash the same things with these teams. So that's the bad. However, there was some good. Kevin Durant, 30,000 points, the third quickest player ever to reach that mark. A little appreciation, a little gratitude, and what it might look like next for Kevin Durant. Will he get 40,000 points with a new team? Or does he finish it out here? Or does he not reach 40,000 points at all? Because that's a tall task. Let's talk about it all next. First, today's show is brought to you by Open Phone. Are you running a small business? Are you wearing a lot of hats? Your personal phone becomes your business phone. And before you know it, you're juggling customer calls days and nights. And as your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with your just personal number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the number one business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, I wouldn't even argue a few coffees. These days, it's about one coffee. You get a complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business's phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off of your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/locked on. That's openphone.com/locked on NBA for 20% off 6 months. Openphone.com/locked on NBA. And if you have existing numbers with other services, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. All right, let's wrap up the show here. We'll talk about Kevin Durant in just a brief second, who did get that 30,000 point mark. I do want to point out some of the box score deficiencies. Kevin Durant, who reached 30,000 points, was impeccable again in this game. It almost feels like his talents are being wasted here, but it's what happens when you give up viable pieces for a great player when maybe the Suns weren't ready for him yet. I think that's a fine explanation to make too. But Kevin Durant, 34 points, 5 blocks, 1 turnover, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. He was awesome tonight. Everywhere on the court. And at 37 years young, 36 years young, it just gets more and more impressive by the day what he is able to do for the Suns team. His longevity rivals LeBron James's longevity. I think Kevin Durant still has 3 or 4 more good years in him. The way he plays the game, his skill set is not going to diminish like Russell Westbrook's has, because it's not relied on athleticism. A lot of it is jump shooting and his ability to just continue to make shots. So we'll get back to him in just a second. The Suns did get up 44 threes tonight. So talking about getting up more threes, unfortunately, they made 12 of them. One of the things I wanted to point out as well, Ryan Dunn, 5 minutes in today's game. You know, I'll give Coach Budenholzer this. He gave the nod to Ty Washington and Bol Bol, I think solely because they play exceedingly hard. They're on the floor, they're getting rebounds, they're shooting the ball well. They play very free style of basketball. And that's why he gave them the nod. And those players should absolutely be rewarded. But not at the expense of Ryan Dunn. There's no reason Tyus Jones should be playing 32 minutes, shooting 4 from 11 for the field, and Ryan Dunn's not in the game. At that point, you just need to have a conversation with Tyus Jones that it ain't friggin' working. Maybe you cut the guy. Maybe you talk about cutting him and letting him go elsewhere if that's what you have to do. Now, I don't want to do that, but if that's how we keep these relations, tight and still be able to allow Ryan Dunn to play in these games, I would like that as well. But it's not just that. It's the 43 minutes tonight Kevin Durant played. And the 40 minutes Devin Booker played. It's just 48 minutes in a game. Those two guys cannot be playing that many minutes just for them to lose pretty easily to the Memphis Grizzlies. So some of your box score oddities to point out from this game. But let's get back to Kevin Durant. I think there's an argument to be made. Kevin Durant's the greatest scorer ever. Greatest pure scorer ever. Like, LeBron James has more points, right? But he could always get to the rim at will. Until we see Victor Wembanyama really perfect what he does, and, he's clearly on his way to doing so, Kevin Durant has been the most unguardable player, I think, in NBA history. Doesn't mean he's the best, whatever. But Kevin Durant's ability to rise above 99% of the NBA, like teams in Kevin Durant's, I want to say prime, but it still feels like he's in his prime. Teams would have to draft or find players just for Kevin Durant to go guard him. There's like 3 players in the NBA that can effectively guard Kevin Durant, but even those guys can't continuously keep him down forever. And I'm talking about your Aaron Gordons, your Jaden McDaniels, those guys that are lengthy, but also big. Players that can kind of push him around a bit. 30,000 points. The third fastest ever. We had MJ and Wilt Chamberlain are the only 2 faster guys. But Kevin Durant's ability to make everything look so effortless at 36 years old is nothing short of legendary. I don't want to end the whole show doom and gloom because I'm so over that as well. There is a part of me that does get a little upset watching Kevin Durant's final great years in the NBA. Hate to use this word, but be wasted on a bad team. And I don't wish him off this team. I think that's nonsense. I want Kevin Durant here. I hope they can build a roster around him. It doesn't feel like they can, but his effortless scoring at 36 years old, 30,000 points, it is up there of one of the most impressive longevity in players I've ever seen. I mean, it's up there with LeBron James. And I don't think he's slowing down. Shane Young, a friend, a guy I talked to a decent amount at the games, he asked Kevin Durant, will we see 40,000? And Katie's like, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if KD reached 40,000. It'd probably take 5 more seasons, but I think Kevin Durant still has a few good seasons left in him. And then at that point, maybe he's a bench guy and he's able to reach that mark in other ways. But there's your hat tip to Kevin Durant. 30,000 points. Potentially the greatest scorer ever. Pure scorer ever. An unblockable shot. There was no such thing as a 7-foot player that can handle the ball as well as he could and shoot the ball as well as he could coming out of college. And that's just who KD is. An insane scorer. And it was even funnier because he's still not a bad defender, but in his prime, he was like this elite scorer, but still having the ability to play exceedingly defensively. So Kevin Durant, still leaving my jaw dropped. Top 10 player of all time, in my opinion. Just an insanely effective scorer and 30,000 points. Well deserved. Well deserved for such a good player. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for making us a part of your day. I apologize that it's coming off another loss, but we appreciate you making Locked On NBA thanks for making Locked On Phoenix Suns your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA. So we appreciate you guys listening to that and listening to us. Don't forget to check out the newsletters as well. Sign up for those. It's a really good way to support the show, support me, support Brendan. Either way, guys, we will talk to you guys tomorrow. And until then, it's been Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Benjamin Garcia, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.